Hi, my name is Paris Seymour, and I will be presenting Prejudice and Predictions. So the learning objectives of this presentation are to be able to define ageism as well as identify the causes and the negative consequences, to discuss the purpose and benefits behind universal design, to understand how the phrasing of demographic data can influence ageism, and to define the three theories regarding the process of aging. So let's start off with, what is ageism? Ageism is a prejudice where people are categorized and judged by their chronological age. We've all heard the saying, you need to act your age, or they don't act their age. We have been conditioned to think that age defines who someone is and what they can do. And it's this type of thinking that leads to older people believing that they can't do certain things. These stigmas that we have against older people leads to a fear of becoming older or simply being old. First review question. What is the definition of ageism? Is it A, B, C, or D? I'll give you some time to think. Okay, the correct answer is C. Ageism is a prejudice where people are categorized and judged by their chronological age. Now, getting into believing the stereotype. Ageism can act as a self-fulfilling prophecy. As society encourages ageist predictions and beliefs, and we take them as fact, they actually can become true. Older people themselves can be ageist by doing this and believing these harmful stereotypes about themselves and their age group. When they believe it, they end up fitting into the stereotypes, and this results in many negative consequences. Those who believe these stereotypes may actually end up becoming frail, confused, see declines in cognition and health, become dependent on others, and etc. See, we have expectations and norms that we expect everyone to follow, because these are the expectations and norms of able-bodied younger generations, and these are seen as the default. So many people have this desire and the inclination to fix older people who just don't have the same needs as us. But this doesn't mean that they're broken. They just don't relate to us in the same way anymore. And see, many older people who don't believe these ageist stereotypes and think that they are above these stereotypes and don't fit in with them, some of these people actually end up holding ageist stereotypes because they think that others around them do fall under these stereotypes. It's very common for older people to believe that they are more functional than their peers. And they say, oh, well, I'm not like those other old people, which in turn reinforces these ageist ideas. So what's the harm? Well, ageism can affect the well-being of older people in many ways. One way that ageism is seen is through elder speak. It is a condescending way of speaking to older adults that resembles baby talk. Some characteristics include short and simple sentences, higher pitch, louder volume, slower talk, and frequent repetition. See, this is counterintuitive. It actually ends up reducing efficiency and fluency of communication. Those who are spoken to in elder speak think that everyone must be annoyed with them, and it worsens their cognition and their mood. And people feel inclined to use elder speak because, again, younger generations believe that older people are now different from them and in turn makes them baby them in a way. And this leads us to sensory loss. Sensory loss is very real and the senses do fade with age. However, ageism can just make this worse. For example, someone may be afraid to look old by wearing their hearing aids, thus they don't wear them and miss out on what people say. This can lead to them becoming excluded, which results in isolation and depression, and yet again, cognitive decline. This is why something called universal design is so important. This is the creation of setting and equipment that can be used by anyone, and it's for everyone, whether or not they are able-bodied and sensory acute. It normalizes the needs and the desires of older people or individuals who have impairments. And it shuns the idea that the norm of younger adults' habits is what is good for everyone. Now we can look at ageism and health. So this brings us to sleep. As we age, our circadian rhythm diminishes, and elders have their own sleeping pattern. And if they choose their own sleeping pattern, they actually end up less tired than us young adults. But ageism makes them think that they have to sleep like us. Some doctors prescribe drugs to help older adults sleep, like the rest of us, but these drugs can actually end up overwhelming the aging body and cause confusion, nausea, and unsteadiness. So these desires of younger people to help the older generations stay like the rest of us actually end up harming these older generations. Exercise can be seen, can be tied with the expectation of older people to behave like younger people as well. So many older people feel as though the gym and pickup sports are designed for younger and more able-bodied people. And this is true. So we can look at ageist health marketing, the advertisements for the gym versus medical alert devices. While alerts like Life Alert may very well save people's lives, the marketing for older adult health, focuses on what could go wrong versus why elders should be getting out and exercising. And it creates the stigma that against older people who actually do break the stereotype. This is why universal design is important, because it can help us normalize good health with age. And older adults can maintain the healthy lifestyles they had as younger adults. So, quick little trivia question. What percentage of people over the age of 65 meet the recommended guidelines for aerobic exercise, and what percent meet the recommended guidelines for muscle strengthening? Is it 48 and 35, 45 and 28, 25 and 22, or 35 and 16? It is actually 35 and 16. Just 35% of people over the age of 65 meet the recommended guidelines for aerobic exercise, and only 16% meet the recommended guidelines for muscle strengthening. So let's turn our focus over to the aging population. So a demographic shift is a shift in the proportions of the populations of various ages. There's something in demography called the demographic pyramid, and the world has followed this trend for centuries. For centuries, it used to be 20 times more children than adults. 50 years ago, it was 7 times more children under the age of 15 than over the age of 64. But just 5 years ago, it was an estimated ratio of 3 to 1. So, as you can see, over the centuries and very, very recently, the population has gradually begun to age. And there are reasons for this, such as most families back then had many, many children, and deaths occurred at all age. But now, with less infant death, many people live to old age. And this demographic pyramid is still present in some developing nations. However, it has transformed into a square in many nations with an equal distribution of population. But many nations, such as Japan, see that this pyramid has turned upside down. So as of 2015, 8% of the world's population was 65 and older, and this is expected to double by just 2050. The worldwide ratio for 2075 is predicted to be 1 to 1. So our aging population is rapidly occurring. And the pyramid can turn upside down for many reasons. Families are continuing to have 2 or less children. Everyone is surviving until old age. And limits on immigration can also cause this. Now, the reporting of data and the phrasing of it can actually end up reinforcing ageist beliefs. For example, the number of people with Alzheimer's is increasing at a fast rate. Now, it is not true that Alzheimer's is suddenly randomly occurring more now than ever. The risk of getting it just increases with age. So, as the American population grows older, the total number of Americans with the disease grows. the proportion of people with Alzheimer's is actually decreasing. Here I have two data sets that show the difference between a demographic pyramid and an upside down demographic pyramid. Italy's population is aging, and so is the world's. And as our population ages, we need to get rid of these ageist beliefs and reinforce positive beliefs about those who are older. Review question. What factor does not turn the demographic pyramid upside down? Is it A, B, C, or D? The answer is B. So more children than old people is not part of the upside down demographic pyramid. The demographic pyramid actually has more old people than children. So now let's talk about the three theories of aging. The first one is wear and tear. So this just means that the body slowly wears out after years of use, part by part. Body parts can begin to suffer from overuse, weather, harmful food, pollution, and radiation. For example, for overuse, we can take people who smoke. They see lung damage later on in life. And sports stars like boxers and hockey players who have suffered repeated blows to the head end up seeing brain injuries as they age. Weather, for example, can cause face age spots from daily sun, wind, and cold. However, an older person may have a completely smooth stomach. Most scientists, however, reject this wear and tear theory since other body parts seem to benefit from activity, not getting worn down. One part of wear and tear is calorie restriction. So it's actually been found that lower calorie intake reduces wear and tear on digestion and metabolism, which could in turn lengthen life. And this is seen in animals such as fruit flies. Fruit flies are 3 times more likely to live longer if they eat less. And it's not just animals. We've seen this in human beings too. For example, in Cuba, when there was an embargo on products in the 90s, people ate fruits and vegetables, they walked more, and they lost a lot of weight. And death due to heart disease and diabetes was reduced. The second thing that we're going to look at is genetics. So 1/3 of longevity is attributed to genes, and the other 2/3 is attributed to epigenetics and environmental factors. Now, maximum lifespan is the oldest possible age that members of a species can live under ideal circumstances. And for humans, this is about 122 years. Now, most people, as we all know, do not live to 122. And this is where average life expectancy comes in. Average life expectancy has more than doubled in the past century, and it's the number of years the average person in a certain population group is likely to live. As of 2015, the worldwide average was 69 for men and 73 for women. In 2015, in America, the average was 77 for men and 83 for women. This is such a huge, huge contrast from earlier centuries, and this is evidence of our aging population. And this is because of many things. First, it's because of the increase in public health measures that can prevent infant and child death, therefore leading more people to live on to their older age. And also because of better medical measures, such as procedures and medicine. The genetic clock is another part of this theory, and the genetic clock is a mechanism in the DNA of cells that basically regulates life, growth, and aging. Some genes can actually either have unusually rapid or slow aging. One example of rapid aging is progeria, which is a disease that when children are born with it, they stop aging and growing at about 5 years of age, and they die in their teen years of diseases that typically aren't found in people their age and are only found in people who are older. Contrasting this people who reach 100 years of age tend to have alleles that others do not. So 2 alleles of the APOE gene prove this. So APOE2 is found in 12% of men in their 70s and 17% of men over age 85. So this shows that the longer you live, the more likely you are to have alleles that others do not. On the other side of this is the allele APOE4, which actually increases the rate of death by heart disease, stroke, AIDS, and neurocognitive disorders. Now, the third and final theory of aging is cellular aging. So this is basically just how molecules and cells are affected by age. So there's something called the Hayflick limit, which is basically the number of times that a human cell is capable of dividing. And once healthy cells reach this point, they stop replicating. So there are things called telomeres at the end of every single chromosome, and they become shorter with each duplication and over time. So at birth, we all have the same amount of telomeres, but once we reach adulthood and older adulthood, once the telomere is completely gone, the cell has reached its limit and the organism dies. We are all born with equal length of telomeres at birth. However, by late adulthood, we can see that telomeres are longer in women and longer in European Americans. Now, I'm going to talk to you about 2 systematic reviews which support what I talked about at the beginning. So first is global reach of ageism on older persons' health. The objective of this was to see if ageism's impact on older people could possibly be underestimated. And they hypothesized that their findings from the 13,000 scholarly papers and studies that they reviewed would show that ageism has a significant impact on an older person's health and general well-being. And they were correct. Ageism actually leads to significantly worse health outcomes in 95.5% of these studies that they reviewed. And ageist effects on health are more likely to be seen in more developed countries, and they are more likely to be against less educated older individuals. And those who believe these ageist ideals can be anyone, regardless of sex, race, ethnicity, and age. So overall, this showed that negative ageism and the effects of it can really negatively impact older people. The second systematic review is promoting healthy eating by confronting ageism. So Todd Nelson conducted a systematic review in which he reviewed many pieces of data and articles, and he found that people who believed negative stereotypes about their old age actually had 30.2% greater memory decline compared to those who did not believe in such stereotypes. And these stereotypes increase stress and anxiety in older persons, which end up influencing their immune functioning for the worse. And those who attributed their personal health issues to their age actually had higher mortality rates than those who did not think that their age was the cause of their health problems. And in fact, those who had more positive ideas about their age and their health actually lived on average for 2.5 to 4.5 years longer. So we see that positive stereotypes and positive views of aging can counteract these negative consequences and help shield older people from worsening health and cognition. So positive views of aging have actually been shown to reduce cardiovascular stress and psychiatric problems such as PTSD, depression, and suicide ideation. It's very important for positive family and social relationships to give older people a sense of security about aging and provide them with more positive views on retirement and old age. And it's up to us to help change the way people view growing old. So, in conclusion, ageism is a prejudice where people are categorized and judged by their chronological age, and this can lead to negative consequences and stigmas against older people. Universal design is the creation of setting and equipment that can be used by everyone, whether or not they are able-bodied or sensory acute. And the goal of it is to normalize the needs of older people. Demographic data can influence ageism depending on how it is phrased, and the wear and tear theory, genetics theory, and cell reproduction theory all provide explanations for why the process of aging occurs. Thank you.